Shalom. Just what I wanted to speak on real fast was the whole nature of perception, and that perception creates reality. And it's funny. It's like we spend all our time perceiving, but how often do folks think about the nature of perception? And like, because that's what's creating everything. Everything's all about perception, and it's like, how do you perceive things? And often in the West, we perceive things from our first thinker, which often correlates as the ego. So it's like, man, what a construed way to live, to have such a limited scope of reality if your first thinker is the ego. But what I just wanted to speak on was that how everyone's robbed. Like how you're robbed in Babylon when you're trained to perceive a certain way. Okay? And it's like my main point in this video is that everyone evaluates what is important and what isn't important based on normally whether it has financial value or not. And with, I guess, love being the exception, but even you see that more and more so these days, where love is, kind of thrown to the side more, and marriage then becomes about a financial agreement. So it's really interesting, but I feel that it's also really healing if we can, when we can shift the paradigms of our perception back into more realistic, realistic meaning, in my definition, realistic in this consensus, like the real consensus reality. Because like in Babylon, people get a job and all they talk about is getting into the real world. But if you think about it, that's not the real world at all. That is the furthest thing from the real world. That's actually the fake world. So again, and of course, everything in Babylon is the opposite. So what they call the real world is going to be the fake world. Okay, so then what is the real world? Well, the real world is nature. The real world is realizing that you live in an industrialized forest, essentially. Or if, like for me, growing up in the mid-Atlantic region in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, for me, it's a natural forest region. For others, it might be a desert or more mountainous, or what have you, whatever your natural climate was there on that part of the earth. So that's what reality is that, and like what have like humans done to manipulate this in so many different ways to try to essentially, it always is boiled down to profit maximization, or just that people are overly monetized. But why are people monetized? And that's really the whole thing, is that we give our powers and our perceptions to to things that like create revenue and profit, and it's just such a monetization of everything, whereas we only value things that are monetized, that you can seek monetary gain from, and things that you don't seek monetary gain from, which is like are viewed as childish. But even things that are monetary gain, I mean, this system isn't real monetary currency anyway that's backed by anything. It's fiat, so it's completely fake anyway. So to me, it's just like it's like such a less version of reality. Like it's just offensive. It's not quite offensive, but it's just so immature, and it's just like I can't imagine. Like some things, like I understand they work so well, but the money thing is like, man, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you grow up your whole life, and we all hear like money's the root of all evil. Like I always understood that as being pretty true. I could see that. But I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people can. It's like, and money isn't necessarily the root of all evil. It's just a tool for it. It's the operating means to get to the necessities of the proclaimed I guess the self-envisioned necessities of a dominant minority. So I mean, yeah, that's really just what I'm hitting on, is that it's like, would you go to work? Would you fucking go to work, to your job right now, if your boss said, you know what, we're actually, we're not going to be doing the paycheck thing anymore. Just keep coming in if you want. I just wanted to let everyone know that we're not going to be giving paychecks out anymore. Everything's still going to be the same. Just you just won't get a paycheck at the end of the week. Would you still go? Because this is such a fascinating thing, because then you can realize, and I know, once the ego starts to break down here, I'm just going to warn you, as I start to say these things, then there's going to be personal attacks on me and my relevancy, which is really irrelevant, because I'm just saying things that might help an individual. It's not about, who I am necessarily, as much as this is just a channel for your own personal growth and awareness. So what the ego, the West, see, everyone has a big ego up. So once someone makes good points that are going to allow for an opportunity for growth with an individual, often people in the West, their ego is going to inflame right up, so they don't grow. The ego exists to keep where you're at exactly right now. And so the spiritual life is all about growth and transformation. So in order to have that growth and transformation, you have to break down the ego. Essentially, you have to just not break it down, but you have to become aware of it, and then becoming aware of it, you can check it, and then you can allow for the growth and transformation when it's opportune. Maybe sometimes you do need that checker. You definitely need the checker in case someone is trying to scam you or something like that, and they're not in your best interest. Then it's good. But okay, so back to the point. When we talk about that opportunity for growth and transformation, then we talk about our heart wants to be doing. Our heart wants to be doing what our heart wants to be doing. So my thing is, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then don't do it. Fuck that guy in the background right there. That shit doesn't matter either. That's completely false. And it's all created, and it's like, do what your heart wants. If your heart's not in it, don't do it. And if you're only doing it, like, you have to break it down like that. Would you go to work if you weren't getting a paycheck? Okay, well, whatever your answer was to that, if you said no, fuck that, I wouldn't go if I wasn't getting a paycheck. But a lot of people are spending their whole life, and by whole life I mean you're there 40, 50 hours a week plus commute and all that, and then even like on the weekends, like in the morning you're pretty much, your whole morning's about getting to work, and then afterwards you got to get in bed early to go to work the next day. It's a complete cycle. It's not like you just go to work and then you're completely freed from work. Some people really totally have to bring their work home with them, but even everyone brings their work home with them to a certain extent emotionally, and then in the long term physically, of course. But in the short term here, we talk about bringing our work home with us. Well, for me, it was always when I was in Babylon, I realized that even when I was in my free time, in Diner Freizeit, when I was in my free time, it was like, the Babylon, I was always being troubled by the fact that I have to return to Babylon, whether it's the school system or the work system. It was like, yeah, okay, I got this day off on Saturday and Sunday, but then Monday I got to be back in that fucking slave system, and that was the issue. So, and I know everyone experiences that. Like everyone, like they can't really fully let themselves go on the weekend because they got work tomorrow, and they can't. It's amazing. Like if you just let yourself go into the true nature reality where there's not all these created needs, and created means needs that are actually created. The only real needs are food, air, shelter, and water, and love. Whatever you believe in provides it. Basically, I mean, it doesn't matter. What. It's not of utmost importance. Of what provides it, but realizing that you're on a planet of absolute abundance, and it's really easy to grow your own food. The seeds are all provided. You just plant them. The water comes down from the sky. The sun shines. That's all the food you need. The woods and everything provides the shelter. You can make a house and everything, and you have absolutely everything you need on this planet. So the whole created work system, the whole created system, is what I mean by created needs. And then we get into consumerism and keeping up with the Joneses and materialism. And this video is getting to be about over because now my throat's getting dry on this rant. But I mean that's all I'm saying, folks. Is just we think about the true nature reality and then the nature reality in Babylon, and you gotta listen to your heart. It's gonna tell you what to do, and I'm not saying it's gonna be an easy path. It's actually gonna most likely be a winding path. But ultimately you're going to be a lot happier, and I guess that's what matters. I think I guess I think that's what matters. I'm not saying it's going to be easier. Don't get me wrong. But ultimately, ultimately, you're going to feel like you have a lot more control over your life, and you're actually making the decisions in your life. When you evaluate it on a truthful perspective, like, I know the truth hurts, but it's like, it's true. Like, if you're working for the man or for your boss, then you're not making decisions in your own life. If that paycheck doesn't come in and you're completely dependent upon it, then you're fucked. Everything you're dependent upon. You're completely dependent upon the electric grid. What happens if the electric grid goes off, like it's happened in a lot of different places? Then what happens? I mean, how dependent are you upon this fictitious system that could fall at any minute, and is falling as we speak? And I'm not saying pushing the fear out there. I'm just saying, we can at least rationally, intellectually come up with alternatives for the future as it emerges, as we see, what works on this planet and what doesn't work. So, follow your heart, and, as far as, the created needs and all that stuff, and, you know what I mean by, making all your decisions based off monetization, off money, because it's like, all right, like, that becomes your God, that becomes everything. It becomes absolutely everything. It's like, you then become completely dependent upon, oh, well, what would I do if I didn't have a job, or what would I do if this and that, and it's not reality. It's not. You're on this planet, you're breathing, the sun's going to come out in the morning, rain will eventually fall from the sky, there's tons of water on this planet, and that's something that's really important, is preserving the water table. Food's easy to grow, there's no concerns. I mean, other than just, kicking then just straighten out the corrupt ones who, are just rampant on, shoving a system that doesn't work down our throats. So on the surface, it appears like a few of the dominant minority, perceivably, dominant in that way, the, 1%ers, but really it's like the 0.001%ers, so they can benefit materially. But I would think anyone who was like of that knowledge would realize that that's not, you wouldn't think that's what it's all about, and you would realize that you're actually creating a lot of suffering in your life by creating a lot of sufferings in others' life. I mean, it's all a chain reaction. So yeah, it's just that, like, I feel like that's how we heal the planet too, is by listening to our hearts, and by just like, and not giving your power to the Babylon system, where it's like, oh, I need to make money, I got to do this, and this is going to happen if I don't make money. No, it's like, just start listening to your heart in every way, and do what you want. And that's actually a much more heady way. Yeah, you've got all these, and I don't know about your attachments and your commitments and the agreements, the contracts you've signed with these white devils, and I'm not saying, all white people are devil or that whole thing. It's just, you make these contracts in Babylon and they bind you, and that's why you shouldn't have made the contracts in the first place. But hey, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, they're trying to bind you down in this physical reality, get you attached to the mortgage and the card payments, and this kid needs this, and he needs to keep up with Betty Sue and Johnny. Then yeah, I mean, you're going to be completely bound down, and you never grow, and you're never going to transform, and you're never going to learn much in this life. And yeah, you might have a lot more money than this person, but you're not happy, and you know it, and you're not taking care of yourself, and you are right. You are going to get old and die just like everyone else, but that's not what this planet's about. It's actually not about that at all. Don't limit yourself to what everyone else is doing around you. I mean, if they're all Babylonians doing as the Romans do, then they're going to suffer the same consequences. But if you start living a different way, and you're not incurring those consequences because of your actions, and you're living a different lifestyle, and you start to treat your body like it's a temple and start to obey natural law and do all this stuff, well, then you're going to start to experience a total different version of reality. And not just here in this now moment, but as it relates to the aging process. You're going to age as much credence as you give to that, as to that thing right there in the background. you're going to age as much as that.